So let's talk about 5 reasons why companies should not force their employees back to the office. Before we dive into those 5, I'd like to give you a little context on the 2 reasons. This is based on my research. There are really 2 reasons why companies are bringing people back. There may be more, but this is where I arrived. You may agree or disagree. I'd love to hear your comments below. But number one would be real estate. So a lot of companies have either built, bought, or they lease office space. And in this case, they want to fill the space. They don't want it sitting empty. Now, if I were a company, I would not pass that problem on to my employees. And we'll get into the why here about productivity in a little bit. But what I would be doing, especially if I bought or built, I would be looking to sell that real estate as fast as possible. The reason is, this goes into the population. We have over 8 billion people in the world. Population is growing extremely fast. With Tykr, we do a lot of homework with real estate. We also talk to a lot of people on our Payback Time podcast. Real estate is not growing fast enough to keep up with the population. We need more homes. So what does this mean? This means that businesses should be looking to sell their property and have that converted. You sell it to a developer, have it converted into condos. We have seen this with old industrial buildings and a lot of downtown locations especially around the US. They're converting that space. They take the first floor, they turn it into retail shops. It could be restaurants or coffee shops or whatever. Then floors 2 and up are all condos. It's a great way to go. You're getting rid of the property and you're providing homes for others. Now, if you have a lease, that's where things become a little more difficult. You could be stuck in like a 3-year, 5-year, 7, 10-year, whatever. How do you get out of the lease? Well, you got to figure that out. You should talk to a developer. Maybe it can be bought out. But in some way, shape, or form, there's ways that you can get rid of your office space so it's not sitting empty. So that's number one, real estate. Number 2 would be management still wants to monitor people. They feel like you being in an office and me as a boss watching you as an employee is making you productive. We're going to go into, again, productivity here in a second. So that's really the second reason. There's this perception that people are more productive in an office. So here are the 5 reasons. Number 1 would be high turnover costs. So I found an article from Gallup. I've also heard the same statistics used at some of the companies I've worked for in the past. Replacing somebody is actually 1.5 to 2 times as expensive as their salary. So let's just use some round numbers here. Let's say somebody's paid $75,000 a year to replace them, get them up to speed, get them up to velocity so they're being as productive as the previous employee. It actually can cost $150,000. So just pretty much go 2x, double their salary. Now get this, same article from Gallup talks about the US businesses alone over the next few years could spend over $1 trillion replacing employees just because so many people are quitting. And on that note, I found 2 statistics from CNBC. In 2021, 48 million people quit their jobs. And in 2022, 50 million people quit their jobs. We're going to continue further here on some of these statistics. So get this, 35% of employees are engaged at work. That's from edsmart.org. And then 85% of people hate their jobs. That's from staffsquared.com. I know I can raise my hand on that. I've worked for companies I absolutely did not like working for. You just got to suck it up, keep driving through, and eventually something better will come along. But that's a pretty high statistic. Now let's talk about the top reasons why you have turnover, why people are leaving their jobs. So there are really 4 main points under this entire high turnover issue. So number 1 would be micromanagement. Number 2 would be people no longer like their job. Unfortunately, I'm just going to drill into this one a little bit. There are a lot of people that they apply for a job, they expect to do the job, which they have a skill set for, but a lot of people are forced or handed work that it doesn't provide value to the customer or generate revenue for the company. And employees hate this. What employers should be doing is, how do we take this time-wasting activity, these tasks that provide no value, how do we automate it? How do we use technology? But unfortunately, a lot of employers make the mistake, especially middle management. They throw junk work at other people, and it gets in the way of what they want to work on and what they're good at. It's a big problem. This big reason why people leave. So number 3 in the section would be there's no room for growth. That's obvious. If you hit a ceiling, you can't grow any further, you feel stuck, you're going to leave and move on. And then number 4 would be people being forced back to the office. Again, this is all from the staffsquared.com. So going back to the top, if you want to bring people back to the office, set expectations. You're going to have a lot of turnover, which is going to cost you a lot of money. Okay, moving on to the number 2 reason would be remote employees are actually more productive. So check this out. From business.com, office workers avoid work 56% of the time. They're getting up, they're going for a coffee break, they're talking to a friend about the ball game, they're finding things to break up the time and avoid work. So that's 56% of the time, but get this, remote workers avoid work 39%. And this is based off of more companies are using screen monitoring software. It monitors your behavior, how long the computer's on, mouse movements, stuff like that. But remote workers are actually more productive. And then there's a study from Stanford actually shows here remote workers are actually 13% more productive. So just keep that in mind. If you think bringing people back to the office is going to make them productive, it's exactly the opposite. Okay, so moving on to number 3, this is a value add. It's for both the employer and the employee, but I'd say more the employee up front. So that would be focus on work-life balance. So based off studies, this is another study from Gallup. What are the top 3 things people value? And those would be number 1, salary and benefits. Obviously, you got to put food on the table. But number 2, a close second is work-life balance. And number 3 would be the ability to do their job. People, again, they want to work in a job that provides value and something they're good at, but don't force work on them that doesn't provide value and just really wastes their time. But focus on work-life balance. If you can keep your employees happy, there's going to be less turnover, which leads back to point 1. And a happier employee is a more productive employee. So overall, number 3 is focus on work-life balance. So number 4 would be leverage technology. So I started working remote way back before remote work was a thing. This was back in 2011, and a lot of the larger companies I worked for were using GoToMeeting, WebEx, and a little bit of Skype. And I will say this, they weren't the most reliable. In many cases, we could only use audio, and there were circumstances when the audio feed would just cut off, internet wasn't strong enough, whatever. It's just ongoing fighting with these platforms. And of course, they've advanced since. But since COVID has passed, it's incredible what Zoom and Teams can do. You can have video chat, you can have 30 people, 40 people, 50 people on a call doing video and audio, depending on your internet connection. In most cases, it can be mid-level speeds, and everybody can be on camera. It's really incredible how things have just advanced over the last 10 years. And then you have Slack. We use Slack at Tykr. Great platform for communicating, chatting. It's so much better than email. And then Teams is a chat component as well that does a pretty good job. So technology is just, it's incredible what it's done. It's really teed us up to lean into this remote work, which a lot of people should be going to today. All right, and that leads up to number 5, which would be, this is a straight up benefit for your employees, but it can tie back to a happier employee, a more productive employee. That would be help your employees save money. So get this, based off a study from fastcompany.com, employees that travel to the office spend an average of $45 a day. That's on lunch and commute. So let's do the math. So $45 per day times 20 working days per month is about $900 a month times 12 months. That's a little over $10,000 a year. That's a big value add to your employees. Now, I will say this, as an employer, as a company, the more little things, value adds you can do for your employees to make their life easier, the longer they're going to stick around. And that really ties back to that number one reason, which is the high turnover costs. You want to avoid that. You want to keep these employees for a longer time. And that way you're going to be spending a lot less money in replacing. So overall, let's just do a quick run through of the top 5. You have number 1 would be high turnover costs. Remote employees are actually more productive. Focus on work-life balance, leverage technology, and help employees save money. So I'd love to hear your comments. Go ahead and leave a comment on YouTube, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.